All right, so I do have the Basecamp F11 electric skateboard out here. We're gonna go ahead and go on a long path here, try to do some tests, see how this thing does here. And of course, you're gonna notice here also that I do have a drone here as well. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna test a follow mode on this drone. We're gonna see how it does. Not only because it looks cool, of course, but I'm going to be doing a test on this follow mode and obstacle avoidance at the same time. This is a new EXO mini drone. I'm not going to do that on this review. But what I'll do is I'll put links in the description and I'll put a link up here as well. So if you want to see how the obstacle avoidance in the follow mode goes with this drone, go ahead and click one of those links and go check that out after you're done with this video. So let's just do it. So this is supposed to be for beginners, and the reason it's for beginners is that it has a wider deck, which is supposed to increase the stability, and also wider wheels, which should make it a little easier to handle. Now, it is called a mini board, which is kind of cool because it does make it portable. But from my experience, portable also means that it might be a little less stable, just a little bit harder to ride, a little more rocky than some of the bigger, larger longboards. So the mini size does allow it to get into a little backpack, which they do include, which is kind of cool. That allows you to carry it around and put it on a bus or in a locker or anything like that. So that is a pretty nice feature. And it comes with that little bag, which I'll show you. And also, when you're talking about size, it's about just over 12 pounds, 12.13 pounds. So it's not super heavy, but it's not just featherweight either. But for a mini board, that's not bad. And the capacity is it'll carry about 220 pounds. I'm about 175, so it shouldn't have any problem with that. It does have a 300-watt hub motor, which is quiet. It should be powerful enough to get you up some like 10% grade up to 10 miles an hour, depending upon the speed mode that you're in. And usually that's pretty fast if you're a beginner, because again, this is dubbed for beginners, or this is built to beginners. So talking about the speed, the 10 miles an hour is adjustable. There's 4 speed profile modes, and there's some braking profile modes as well, which is a function kind of how they programmed it in the ESC that they use. I found, the 2 or 3 for the speed is pretty good for me, because otherwise the grades, even a little bit of a grade here, and I'll show you this grade that I'm on right now, it's struggling. This is pretty much full throttle, and I think I'm in number 2 right now as far as the speed. If you go in the higher speed modes, it does give you more acceleration and more speed, so you got to be careful. You're getting a little less safe the faster you go and the more acceleration you go. So be careful with that just to gain the tone. So the battery itself, talking about how the battery will last, the battery is a UL2272 certified 4,000 milliamp hour battery with a range of about 9 miles, they say. And we'll go a little bit and see how it goes today, see if we can get anywhere near that at all. The deck itself is made of 8 layers of maple, which is pretty cool. I love wooden things like that. I love the natural wood deck like that. Of course, what that does do, though, is it does make it pretty stiff. There's some flex boards that are a little easier on your feet because you don't feel every little bump. You get that little flex, kind of like a built-in shock absorber. So this doesn't have that because of the stiffer deck. But again, because it's a mini board, it's one of those things you start giving up this. The remote itself is pretty nice. It's pretty intuitive. It does give you the board battery life indication, which is nice. So when you start getting too low, I'm going to turn around so that I don't end up puffing it all the way back here. That's pretty intuitive. The acceleration and the brake is on the same dial, which is kind of nice because I know some people who have taken out their collarbone because they hit the brake when they were accelerating as well. So that does allow us to kind of have control of when we're accelerating and braking, to put it on the wrong button. And of course, it does have a power button, which is also doubles as your mode button. And it also has a reverse button. Now, I'm not a big fan of reverse, but hey, if that works for you, at least they do have an option. Now, I am coming up to a deck here, but the deck looks pretty good. So I'm going to pay attention and I'm going to ride on this to see how it does. These wheels are handling it pretty well. It got pretty good going over those bridges. Now they are pretty nice though, so I would still advise if there's a track that looks like it's going to be a little harder, like this one here, make sure you put your weight on the back of that board, get that from the board up, so you don't deadhead it and end up running. I'm going a little slow as well, which helps to help. I know some people are going to ask me, well, is this thing waterproof? Can I go board and skate in the water and snow? Well, they say that it's an IP54. And I looked up the IP54, and that basically is limited amounts of dust and particles, but it's protected from water spray, so you get kind of incidental splashing. But if you're driving any water, if you're going through puddles and driving it underneath into that battery casing, it's not going to be waterproof. It's going to seep in there, and you're going to have some trouble with that. Now, here's an instance where I am not going to try to take this on. This edge is way too high. I'll go flying off for sure. So overall, I guess my impressions of this board here after riding it for a while is it does a pretty good job. It really does. It's pretty stable, although I did have to tighten the trucks from the factory. They were really loose. So kind of keep that in mind. You might want to adjust that before you go take it out for a ride. The acceleration's pretty good in all modes, but it does struggle on a grade that I thought maybe it should be able to do. Because this is a stiff deck and a bit smaller, the ride is not the softest. You do feel the road a bit when you're hitting any little bumps. But it's not bad. I mean, again, it's not going to be an all-terrain or anything like that, but it is a beginner board. So because it's mini, that's one of the trade-offs that you make. I like the braking, that it was a little softer and slower, but some might find that a little dangerous if you're in traffic or anything. You might want to adjust that braking up. And again, just like the speed, you have modes. You can adjust that 4 different ways so that it can match your style a little bit. I like it a little softer so it doesn't toss you up the board, but if you need to stop in the hill and you're ready for that, you can adjust it. But I kind of like the stop setting that comes with. It comes with the board, the remote, the charger, USB cable for charging the remote, a backpack carrier, a T2 for adjusting the trucks and the wheels, and a deck guard for the back, and then a user's manual. So pretty reasonable for the price. And speaking of the price, this price is pretty good for a beginner. It's about $300, so there's some pretty darn pricey boards. You can spend $1,000 or $2,000 without even blinking out there. So, well, so far the range seems pretty good. I'll put right up here what I actually calculated it would be. Right now, I've got about 3 bars on the board, which is 75%. So that's pretty good. I've been hitting some pretty good slopes and been going a long time there, so it seems like the battery life is pretty good. So hopefully this review helps you in some way decide if this board might be for you or not. Of course, it's for you to decide. And you guys let me know in the comments. What do you think? Something you might consider, and why? Is it something up your alley? Just let me know what you think. I really appreciate your comments. And of course, as always, if you found anything of use in this video or something you just didn't know before, really do appreciate a like. It's free, I promise. Lets us creators know there's something we're doing that's of interest, so I really do appreciate that. So with that, again, I hope you enjoyed our time. Until next time, we'll see you in the next video.